Deputy President, I too rise today to speak on the Building and Construction Industry Improving Productivity Bill 2013. When I worked in the Army, I worked for General David Morrison, the Chief of Army, and one of the things he said that got a lot of publicity that has stuck with me is the standard you walk by is the standard you accept, not just in defence but in all industries. And certainly that is applicable in this place, and it is certainly applicable to the millions of men and women who work in and around the construction industry. From 4 royal commissions over the last 40 years, the facts are absolutely crystal clear. The construction industry has been and remains uniquely rife with corruption and bullying. Circumstances exist still today for workers that would be totally and utterly unacceptable in this day and age in any other workplace in this country. It is absolutely clear that the Abcc worked. It should never have been gotten rid of by those opposite, and it is desperately needed again. So despite all of the tummy-tickling rhetoric from those opposite, it is all about protecting Australian workers, and it is about stopping union thuggery, but it is also about improving productivity and reducing construction costs in our most vital of industries. And ultimately, you reduce the costs, you create more jobs and you create more wealth. So the 165,000 sparkies, the 124,000 carpenters, 87,000 plumbers, 46,000 painters, 43,000 civil engineers, and then many thousands more of concreters, plasterers, brickies, tilers and other very hard-working tradies, they belong to our 3rd largest industry and are subject to utterly appalling standards of behaviour in the workplace and also to criminal activities in the workplace. As I said, if these workers were in any other industry and not one protected by those opposite for so many years, it would not happen. And I'll go through shortly some of the more egregious and outrageous things that workers in this industry have to put up with, because those opposite walk past it every single day. They're your mates, they're your ex-colleagues, they're your donors, but that is absolutely no excuse for walking past the appalling things that happen in thousands of work sites in the construction industry every single day. These hard-working men, and all too few women, deserve that we stop walking past them and what they have to put up with every single day. In my home state of Western Australia, workers suffer from some of the most horrific circumstances, as they do nationally. The 2015 federal court case, WA Director of Fair Work Building Industry Inspectorate versus Upton, noted this: fines totalling $24,000 imposed on the CFMEU and its official Bradley Upton for racially abusing a site representative on a construction site. The court described the conduct as disgraceful behaviour. Mr Upton made obscene remarks to a site representative and told another to hit him after he became agitated about the meeting room assigned for discussion with workers. Mr Upton said the most obscene, abusive and offensive comments, far too revolting for me to repeat here in this chamber today. But I'm sure some of my colleagues here know exactly what comments I am referring to. These comments and this behaviour would never, ever be tolerated, and haven't for decades been tolerated in any other workplace. Justice Gilmore further commented on Mr Upton's comments, and he stated this: "I regard Mr Upton's conduct as deplorable, particularly for someone acting in his official capacity, supposedly on behalf of his workers. The language used, as well as being repeatedly as seen, had a particularly nasty racist overtone." Makes me wonder where the Human Rights Commission was in relation to this matter, but I digress. In relation to the CFMEU, the court said the CFMEU has a significant record of non-compliance with the provision of industrial legislation. There is a history over a number of years of contraventions on industrial law by CFMEU officials, for whom the CFMEU is responsible, and which have involved those officials variously in using obscene and threatening language, making threats of assaults, and in some cases involving scuffles and actual physical alteration. Another incident, which according to the Royal Commission union official Michael Greenfeld told female workplace inspectors, and again this is far too obscene for me to read actually what he said, but they were effing dogs. And he also said to them, "I hope you brought your knee pads. You're going to be doing expletive on those dogs all day in the workplace." Can you imagine any other workplace in this nation where female workers would come onto a work site, into a workplace, and be told when they entered, "Did you bring your knee pads because you're going to have to perform a sexual act on all of us in this workplace"? That's what he said, and it is completely and utterly appalling that those opposite are doing nothing to address this endemic problem. After 4 Royal Commissions, so this is not something new. 4 Royal Commissions in 40 years have found the same thing over and over and over again about the CFMEU, that there are endemic criminal activities within the building and construction industry, and workers are repeatedly and regularly subject to unacceptable behaviours. And the impact of this is felt far further than the direct impact on workers. Our whole economy suffers because we're paying up to 30% more for building and construction works in this country. You think about the implications of that. That in my own home state, that's the taxpayers of Western Australia paying 30% more of their taxes for construction jobs simply because of the corruption and other activities that happen in the unions. 30%. We could be building 30% more schools, public infrastructure, but no, it's going into the coffers of the deals with the trade unions. It is actually very shameful. Last Monday night in this chamber, the Senate passed the first tranche of legislation to deal with these issues, the Fair Work Registered Organisations Amendment Bill. This will ensure that the rogue union officials are subject to the same standards and accountability as corporate and charity organisation directors. But those opposite, again, fought the government at every turn to bring the basic level of accountability for union officials, which again is absolutely disgraceful. Why should union officials not be accountable to their members for for how they use their money? Just as those opposite should be working with the government to make sure that the millions of people who work in construction and manufacturing in workplaces are actually treated with respect and not subject to criminal behaviour. As I said, the construction industry itself is an integral part of the Australian economy, not only for the approximately just over 1 million jobs directly it creates, but also in establishing the infrastructure that we need for long-term economic development. In Australia, the industry is Australia's 3rd largest industry and actually contributes 8% of GDP to this nation. And last year, in my own wonderful state of Western Australia, the $31 billion construction industry accounted for a full 11% of gross state product. However, the systemic culture of abuse, of corruption and of bullying, which riddles the construction industry in my home state, as it does elsewhere in the nation, make Australia a less appealing place both for domestic and also overseas companies to invest. Why would you invest when you don't have certainty, when you have corruption, when you have bullying, and you don't have certainty? You may as well put your money somewhere else, and all of us in Australia suffer because of that. So Mr Shorten abolished the Abcc in 2012. After that, the rate of disputes in the construction industry has already increased by 40%, while in other industries the rate of disputes declined by 33%. All other industrial disputes declined nationally by 33%, but surprise, surprise, with the Abcc gone again, the rate of disputes increased by 40% in the building and construction industry. And unsurprisingly, and additionally, the significant cultural problem of bullying and abuse in workplace has seen decreased participation by women in the building and construction industry. The Productivity Commission notes that of the 19 industry divisions in our economy, Construction has the lowest participation of women at just over 11% of the workforce, when compared to nearly 6% across all other industries. With conditions that men and women, and particularly women, have to suffer and put up with in the construction industry, is it any wonder that we have so few women joining and staying in that industry? And for many years it's also been very clear that the commercial building and construction sector provides the worst examples of industrial unlawfulness. And again, you don't just have to look at the last Royal Commission report, but the 3 preceding Royal Commissions, all saying the same thing over and over and over again. It is a corrupt industry, it is a corrupt union, and it is a totally inappropriate workplace for so many men and women to work in. 13 years ago, the Coal Royal Commission found the following: this is an industry which departs from the standards of commercial and industrial contact exhibited by the rest of Australia. They mark the industry as singular, which means that this is a unique industry with a uniquely corrupt and inappropriate organisation in the CFMEU. Again, nothing new, but unique in this country. The industry was also, this is 13 years ago, marred by unlawful and inappropriate conduct. Fear, intimidation and coercion are commonplace. Contractors, subcontractors and workers face this culture continually. And the Coal Royal Commission also said, at the centre of this culture and much of the unlawful and inappropriate conduct is, guess who? Yes, the CFMEU. The Coal Royal Commission also said the CFMEU exercises a position of dominance and power, often disproportionate to its on-site presence, in terms of the number of workers on site who are members of the CFMEU. Now, if you took the findings of the Coal Royal Commission and the most recent Royal Commission, they are saying the same thing over and over and over again about this union. I am incredibly proud that the Howard government was prepared to step in and make the tough decisions to clean up this sector for all of the men and women who work within it. That, I think, is great government, taking the tough decisions but the necessary ones. The establishment of the Abcc in 2005 provided a genuinely strong watchdog for what is a uniquely corrupt and, again, awful workplace for so many men and women to work in. It was strong, specialist regulator that enforced the rule of law to the building and construction centre. And what were the results? Yes, there were results. When the Abcc was introduced, there was a decrease in lawlessness in the building and construction sites. It was clearly making a difference, which is why those opposite hated it so much, and the now Leader of the Opposition abolished it. Senator Di Natale's assertion that the Abcc did not make any difference is demonstrably and factually wrong. When the Abcc existed, the economic and industrial performance of this building and construction sector improved. The figures are very clear. According to the ABS, estimates of industry multi-factor productivity showed that in the 6 years from 2004-5 to 2011-12, in its final year of operation, labour productivity index for the construction industry rose from 83 to 100, a 20% increase in a few short years. Clear evidence the Abcc was actually working, which would have been terrible for you to actually realise that the Abcc was working, just as it will work again when reintroduced by this government. The most recent Royal Commission findings once again lift the veil on what everybody in this industry has known for over 40 years, but previous governments were either unwilling or unable to tackle. The Hayden Royal Commission again reported that there is still a culture of wilful defiance of the law, which appears to lie at the heart of the CFMEU. Since 2005, the CFMEU has had to pay $8 million of their members' money in fines. $8 million of the membership dues paid by the CFMEU membership have been paid for wilful breaches by the union officials of legislation. They continue, as the Royal Commission found, they continue to wilfully flout the law and keep using their members' money as a bit of an ATM to pay for their own fines. This systematic and volatile culture of bullying, of corruption and harassment that was again identified by the most recent Royal Commission reinforces the need
Thank you,
for an
Senator
active
Reynolds.
enforcement
You will be
of
in
workplace laws.
continuation. It's 2 p.m. We now move to questions without